In less than 4 hours, my alarm is set to go off as I will begin to get ready to take my youngest, my baby boy, to the hospital. So they just came and took Jonah back for surgery. That's one part of being a mom that never gets easier. I know the Lord has him in his hands. We prayed over him. We anointed him with oil. And I'm just waiting patiently for them to come back and tell me that it's over and everything went better than expected. And then being able to hold my baby in my arms again. This is truly that part of motherhood that I don't think you can ever prepare for. But it is what it is. He had the most beautiful smile this morning. This is laughing and talking and playing. So, can't wait to see that smile again. Motherhood, the journey continues. So we're out of surgery. We were in recovery. Didn't want to do recordings there because he was in so much pain. It was just very difficult to watch. So definitely not anything I wanted to have a physical memory of. We've been admitted to the ICU, which I knew was going to happen, but we found out that the surgery was a little bit more complex than what they were anticipating, which means we will probably be here a little bit longer than expected. Currently on IV therapy and high flow oxygen. They started him off with a real low dose pain med. He continued screaming. They upped it to Tylenol. He still was screaming. And finally, the surgeon recommended that they put him, or wrote a prescription for putting him on morphine, because she came out to talk to me post-surgical and he was screaming. She went in and did a whole nother surgery and came out and he was still inconsolable. So that was at the point she decided to go ahead and write a script for morphine. And fortunately, he's been resting because the type of surgery he had, his throat is completely swollen and sore, so he's not wanting to nurse. So we'll keep tracking his progress and watching the Lord move on his behalf. But Mama's going to be quiet now because, as you can see, he's starting to move. So, looks like we'll be going home today. Yeah. After checking in at 6 o'clock Friday morning for surgery, we are going home. And it's only Sunday, so praise God. For those of you that were not aware, back in March, Jonah was diagnosed with obstructive sleep disorder. And prior to that, in February, he was diagnosed with something called laryngomalacia. And so he had a narrowing of his airway and excessive skin. So we were told that he needed surgery to correct it. And because of what happened with COVID, we couldn't plan the surgery right away, which was led to a lot of sleepless nights. We were sent home back in February, March on a Trilogy ventilator CPAP machine, which he did not like keeping on his face, so he kept pulling it off. But ultimately, we got a clearance to do surgery on Tuesday. It was scheduled for Friday. The surgery is supposed to take less than an hour, and when we hit about the hour and a half mark, I knew there was something additional wrong, wasn't sure what. Met with the surgeon after the surgery and found out not only did he have excess skin, and I'll input pictures, he had a complete collapse of his epiglottis over his airway. And the surgeon stated that she had never seen it so severe in a baby so young. So I have to stop and thank the Most High for his hedge of protection, because what he had been dealing with for the past 5-6 months was making it virtually impossible for him to breathe at night, even with the CPAP machine. And we knew there was something because we would put him on the CPAP machine and he would still struggle. And that collapse across his airway was what was causing it. I have to admit, I broke down initially to hear what was going on and what happened. And she immediately told us that his recovery period was going to take a lot longer, just because of the type of repair she had to do on him. She had never done on a baby his size before. She wasn't sure how he would take to recovering, because she had to repair the part that he uses to swallow. And so she wasn't sure how well he'd take to nursing. And I have to be honest, the first 12 hours or so after surgery, he did not want to nurse. And he would just cry, and it broke my heart. It did. It broke my heart, because he would just look up at me like I'm in pain. And all I could do was have my sister reach out to my prayer support group, and all my ladies started praying for him. And thank God that he intervened, and he was able to get some sort of comfort later on Friday evening, and eventually started nursing on and off. And we had a rough night that first night, that Friday night. He struggled just to get sleep. But last night, praise God, oh my goodness, he slept like a champion. He went to sleep about 9:30, 10, and did not wake up till almost 8. And he's eating, he's laughing, he's smiling. As you can hear, he's talking. Yes, you are. And so we got word that he's recovering a lot better and a lot faster than they thought. So looks like we're going home today. God is an awesome God. So I want to stop here and say, mothers, fathers, grandparents, but especially to my mothers, so many times God will give us a feeling that something isn't right, and we ignore it. Or we feel like maybe I'm being emotional, or maybe it's just my imagination. Know that oftentimes that is the voice of God speaking to you. I can go back to Jonah's birth, and I kept insisting that he be born about 37 weeks. And no one knew why. I couldn't even tell you why. I just kept asking my midwife, kept asking the fetal maternal specialist, and we did have some complications, but they were saying the complications weren't enough to warrant that. Long story short, he was delivered via emergency C-section at 37 weeks and 2 days. And it's one of those things where my midwife, after he was born, was like, you kept saying he needed to come early. And I can't tell you why I knew he needed to come early, but I can tell you what I realized, even in talking to her, is that's how so many of our babies are born stillborn. Because we know something isn't right, and doctors don't necessarily listen, and then we get to the hospital and it's too late. But praise God, that wasn't the case with Jonah. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and I kept telling his doctor and his ENT, he's not breathing right. And I even said it before we left the hospital. When he was in the NICU, I told him I thought he was having sleep apnea episodes. And they were like, no, the machine's not picking it up. If something was wrong, the machine would have picked it up. Well, guess what? At about 5 weeks, I finally convinced the ENT to order a sleep study that didn't get scheduled for another 3 weeks. When they finally did the sleep study, 3 weeks later, he was having over 60 interruptions in breathing per hour. Okay, so we're back. That was the doctor coming in to give us the official clear to go home. But I do want to say, back to what we were talking about. So yeah, imagine that. Imagine for weeks he had been having over 60 interruptions in breathing every hour. That was very difficult to process as a mom. And again, very humbled and grateful to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because he kept my son. In the midst of all of that, he kept him. He continued to give him the breath of life. He continued to wake me up in the middle of the night to readjust him. And here we sit about 3 months after that, and to find out that not only did he have excess skin, but that the skin in his neck, his epiglottis, was completely covering his airway. And yet my baby would wake up every morning with the biggest smile and happy and laughing and talking. And so as mothers, again, and this is nothing against fathers or other caregivers, but mom, trust your instinct. Trust the God in you. Trust that he is leading you and guiding you to take care of your children, to protect them, to nurture them. And so we're getting ready to go home. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to hear that, Sam. Yes, so, for now, signing off, merely me, just a multitasking mom. You gonna say bye-bye? You gonna say bye-bye?